This pump's for paying customers, not for trash like you." Officer Tanner's voice cut through the humid afternoon air. Officer Tanner motioned to his partner. They didn't just see Marcus Kane at the gas pump. They saw his wife and son in the SUV as part of the problem. After shoving Marcus, Tanner saw the boy recording. He ripped the door open and smashed the phone from his hand. As the boy's mother cried out, the other cop aimed his taser to silence her. They thought they were teaching a thug's family a lesson. They had no idea they'd just attacked a high-ranking Hells Angels leader. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The late afternoon hangs heavy with humidity, wrapping around the Kane family like a thick blanket. Marcus stands beside his gleaming Harley, one hand on the gas pump, his weathered leather vest catching the last rays of sunlight. The Hells Angels patch on his back feels especially prominent today, though it's partially hidden beneath his riding jacket. Tanya watches from inside their SUV, her fingers drumming nervously on the steering wheel. Years of marriage to Marcus have given her a sixth sense for trouble, and right now, every instinct tells her something's wrong. She glances in the rearview mirror at Darius, who's slowly stirring from his nap, his eyes adjusting to the dimming light. The patrol car's headlights cast long shadows across the cracked concrete of the gas station. Marcus maintains his composure, his military training evident in his straight posture and measured movements. He's been in situations like this before, the sideways glances, the tension building like static before a storm. Through the gas station's grimy windows, the cashier watches with obvious interest. The two local men who were hanging around their pickup truck now lean against its hood, making no effort to hide their stares. Their Confederate flag decal seems to glow in the fading light, a silent declaration of their beliefs. Darius sits up straighter in his seat, now fully awake. At 13, he's old enough to recognize the weight of these moments. He's seen that look in people's eyes before, the one that reduces his father to nothing but his skin color, ignoring the decorated Marine and respected biker beneath. The gas pump clicks, breaking the heavy silence. Marcus deliberately keeps his movements slow and precise as he returns the nozzle to its holder. The patrol car's engine idles, a low growl that matches the growing tension. Inside the SUV, Tanya reaches for her phone, placing it in her lap, a habit born from too many news stories and too many close calls. She catches Darius doing the same thing, his young face serious beyond his years. The officers remain in their vehicle, but their presence feels like a spotlight on Marcus. One officer speaks into his radio, his words muffled but his intent clear. They're waiting, watching, looking for any excuse to engage. Marcus wipes his hands carefully on a paper towel, his rings glinting, his Marine Corps ring on one hand, his wedding band on the other. Each movement is deliberate, controlled. He's learned over the years that in moments like these, control is everything. The air conditioning in the SUV hums softly as Tanya cracks her window. "Baby," she calls out quietly, "we should go." Her voice carries the weight of experience, of knowing how quickly these situations can turn. Two more vehicles pull into the gas station, a dusty pickup and another patrol car. The quiet evening is suddenly feeling very crowded. Marcus can feel the eyes on him, the silent judgment, the preconceptions forming in strangers' minds. Darius leans forward in his seat, his phone now recording discreetly. Another lesson learned too young. His father taught him, document everything, stay quiet, stay safe. The red light on his phone blinks steadily, capturing the scene as it unfolds. The first pair of officers finally step out of their car. Their boots crunch on the loose gravel, an ominous soundtrack to their approach. The taller one, his nameplate reading Blake, rests his hand casually on his holster, a gesture that's anything but casual. Marcus reaches for his wallet, keeping his movements visible and slow. The leather of his vest creaks slightly as he turns, facing the approaching officers with the quiet dignity that's become his armor over the years. The gas station's fluorescent lights flicker to life in the growing dusk, casting harsh shadows across everyone's faces. The scene feels suspended in time. Marcus by his Harley, the officers advancing, Tanya and Darius watching from the SUV, and the local onlookers waiting for something to happen. A moth flutters around the nearest light, creating dancing shadows on the concrete. The humid air grows thicker with each passing second, heavy with unspoken words and barely contained tension. The click of the gas pump seems like hours ago now, replaced by the sound of approaching footsteps and the quiet murmur of radio chatter. Tanya's hands grip the steering wheel tighter, her nurse's training keeping her outwardly calm while her heart races. She knows Marcus will handle this with the same grace he's shown countless Officer Tanner strides toward Marcus, his boots striking the pavement with deliberate force. His face twists into a sneer as he closes the distance, hand already resting on his weapon. "Put your hands where I can see them," he barks. "We've got reports of someone matching your description robbing Williams's store just up the road." Marcus keeps his movements measured and calm, decades of military discipline evident in his steady gaze. "Sir, I've been on the road with my family all day. We're just passing through." His hands move slowly, reaching for his wallet. "I said hands where I can see them." Tanner's voice cracks like a whip across the humid air. Deputy Cole circles Marcus's Harley, running his fingers along the chrome with obvious disdain. His eyes fix on the Hells Angels patch, and his lip curls. Inside the SUV, Darius's hands tremble slightly as he positions his phone, making sure the camera captures everything. The recording icon pulses red, steady as a heartbeat. His father had taught him about moments like this. Stay calm, document everything, let the truth speak for itself. ID and registration, now. Tanner's demand cuts through the evening air. Marcus produces his documents with deliberate care, maintaining eye contact. The officer snatches them, barely glancing at the credentials before tossing them back. "Marine Corps veteran? Hells Angels VP?" "Yeah, right." Cole's radio crackles with static as he completes his circle. "Dispatch, run these plates." His free hand rests on his taser, thumb stroking the grip. The gas station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, deepening the lines of suspicion etched there. "You seem awful jumpy," Tanner says, pushing his face closer to Marcus's. "Your eyes look glassy. You high right now?" He jabs a finger into Marcus's chest, the gesture loaded with challenge and contempt. Marcus stands his ground, voice steady and clear. "No, sir. I don't use drugs. I'm just trying to get my family home safely." His hands remain visible, his posture non-threatening but dignified. "Get on your knees," Tanner demands, spittle flying from his lips. When Marcus doesn't immediately comply, he shoves him hard. "I said knees!" Marcus plants his feet, maintaining his balance. "You're out of line, officer. I've shown you my ID. I've cooperated. There's no reason for this." Tanner's face flushes red with rage. His eyes catch the glint of Darius's phone screen through the SUV window. In 3 quick strides, he reaches the car, yanks open the door, and swats the device from the boy's hands. It hits the concrete with a sickening crack, pieces scattering across the fuel-stained pavement. "No!" Tanya's cry pierces the night air. She reaches for her son instinctively, but freezes when Cole draws his taser, the red targeting dot dancing across Marcus's chest. "Last chance," Cole warns, his finger tight on the trigger. "On your knees." Marcus raises his hands slowly, palms forward. "There's my son watching," he says, voice tight with controlled emotion. "My boy is right there. Don't do this." His eyes flick between the officers, calculating, measuring the distance to his family. Tanner's patience snaps. He lunges forward, grabbing Marcus's leather vest with both hands. The material creaks as he tries to force Marcus down, but years of military training and street survival kick in. Marcus shifts his weight, redirecting Tanner's momentum without throwing a punch. Cole seizes the opportunity, diving in from behind. His shoulder connects with Marcus's lower back, driving them both toward the gas pump. The impact sends a spray of fuel across the concrete, creating rainbow patterns in the harsh station lights. They hit the ground hard. Marcus twists, trying to protect his head from the concrete, but Tanner's knee finds his back. The officer's weight drives him down, pressing his face against the rough surface. The metallic taste of blood fills his mouth as his lip splits against the pavement. "Stop resisting!" Tanner screams, though Marcus hasn't thrown a single punch. The spilled gasoline soaks into his clothes, mixing with the blood now dripping from his face. Tanya's screams echo across the forecourt. "Help! Somebody help us!" Her voice breaks with desperation as she watches her husband pinned to the ground. Darius presses himself against the car seat, tears streaming down his face, his broken phone lying useless on the ground. "You're under arrest!" Tanner's words come between heavy breaths as he struggles to maintain his hold. The smell of fuel grows stronger, the puddles spreading beneath them like a dark mirror reflecting the station's harsh lights. Marcus doesn't fight back. He can't. Not with Darius watching. Not with Tanya's terrified cries ringing in his ears. He tastes blood and gasoline, feels the rough concrete pressing against his cheek, endures the weight of both officers bearing down on him. His military training screams at him to defend himself, but his heart knows better. One wrong move, one misinterpreted gesture, and this situation could turn fatal. The gas station's security cameras whir silently above, capturing every moment of the unfolding injustice. The local onlookers have their phones out now, too late to capture the beginning, but recording nonetheless. The evening air grows thicker with tension, the humidity making it hard to breathe as Marcus lies pressed against the fuel-soaked concrete. As Tanner yanks Marcus's arms behind his back, the leather vest shifts and falls open. The red and white death's head emblem of the Hells Angels gleams under the fluorescent lights, the words, "Vice President," clearly visible on the bottom rocker. Cole's grip loosens instantly, his face draining of color as understanding dawns. "No way," he mutters, taking an involuntary step back. Tanner's fingers freeze on the handcuffs, the metal clicking half-closed around one of Marcus's wrists. The distant rumble of motorcycles fills the sudden silence, growing louder with each passing second. The sound reverberates through the concrete, a rolling thunder that makes the gas pumps vibrate. "You boys picked the wrong night," Marcus says quietly, still face down on the pavement. Blood trickles from his split lip, mixing with the spilled gasoline in a pink swirl. The first bike appears around the corner, a massive black Harley with chrome that catches the station's lights like lightning. Behind it, more bikes emerge from the darkness, filling the street with their collective roar. The formation is tight, disciplined, each rider wearing the same colors Marcus bears on his back. Ricky Bones McGraw leads the pack, his weathered face set in stone as he guides his bike into the station. The rest of the convoy follows, surrounding the scene in a precise half-circle. Engines idle in perfect sync, creating a low, threatening growl that seems to come from everywhere at once. Bones kills his engine and dismounts with fluid grace that belies his size. His boots hit the pavement with decisive force as he strides forward, each step measured and purposeful. The patch on his chest marks him as chapter president, and his eyes burn with controlled fury as he takes in the scene. "You just assaulted one of ours," he growls, his voice carrying despite its low volume. The words seem to physically push against the officers, making them step back further. Cole's hand trembles slightly as he reaches for his radio, but he thinks better of it. Tanner's earlier bravado has evaporated, replaced by the sickly pallor of someone who realizes they've made a terrible mistake. The handcuff dangles from Marcus's wrist, forgotten. Marcus remains still, his voice steady and controlled. "Let me up before this gets ugly." The words aren't a threat. They're a warning, offered more for the officer's benefit than his own. More bikers dismount, their boots creating a rhythm against the pavement as they move to form a tighter circle. The air grows thick with tension, and the smell of exhaust mixed with spilled fuel. The station's other customers have retreated to their vehicles, watching the scene unfold through half-rolled windows. Cole glances at his partner, then back at the growing crowd of leather-clad figures. His training never covered this scenario. Slowly, he removes his knee from Marcus's back, stepping away with his hands raised slightly. "Badge numbers," Bones demands, pulling out his phone. "Both of you. Now." Tanner's mouth opens and closes, but no words come out. His hand has moved away from his weapon, and his aggressive posture has collapsed into something approaching submission. I... Tanner stammers, his earlier confidence nowhere to be found. 4793, Cole recites quickly, elbowing his partner. His is 5218. Marcus pushes himself to his feet with deliberate care, his movements controlled despite the pain evident in his features. He straightens his vest, dignity intact despite the fuel soaking his clothes and the blood on his face. Tanya rushes forward with Darius, wrapping her arms around him. The boy buries his face in his father's side, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The circle of bikers tightens almost imperceptibly. None of them have spoken or moved aggressively, but their presence fills the space with unspoken promise. Their patches catch the light. Soldiers, Marines, combat veterans among them. Men who understand discipline, brotherhood, and consequences. Marcus wipes the blood from his lip with the back of his hand, leaving a crimson streak across his skin. His eyes lock onto Tanner's, and in that moment, the power dynamic shifts completely. "You better pray this is over," he says, each word clear and precise. The officers back away, trying to maintain some semblance of professional composure. They retreat to their patrol car in measured steps, never turning their backs to the crowd. The car's lights flicker off, the earlier show of authority abandoned. Bones steps closer to Marcus, placing a heavy hand on his shoulder. "You good, brother?" "I'll live," Marcus responds, holding Tanya and Darius closer. "Just need to get my family home." The bikers part like a wave, creating a clear path to the SUV and Marcus's Harley. Tanya helps Darius into the car, her hands still trembling as she buckles him in. She retrieves the pieces of his shattered phone, carefully placing them in her purse. The patrol car idles at the edge of the lot, its occupants notably silent. The gathered bikers watch as Marcus checks his motorcycle for damage, their presence a shield between him and any further interference. The station's security cameras continue their silent vigil, having captured every moment of the confrontation. Marcus swings his leg over his bike, wincing slightly from the growing bruises. He looks at Tanya through the SUV's window, giving her a reassuring nod. The engine roars to life beneath him, a sound of power and promise. For now, it seems, the situation has diffused. The family pulls out of the station, leaving behind a crowd of witnesses and two officers who suddenly have a lot to think about. The highway stretches dark and empty ahead as Marcus leads the way on his Harley, Tanya following close behind in their SUV. The steady rumble of his bike provides little comfort against the chill that settled in his chest. His split lip throbs with each heartbeat, a constant reminder of what just happened. Through his mirrors, he watches Tanya driving. Even from this distance, he can see the tension in her posture, her hands gripping the wheel too tightly. In the back seat, Darius sits completely still, nothing like his usual animated self. The first flash of headlights in his rear view barely registers, but when they stay consistent, matching their speed exactly, Marcus's jaw tightens. He recognizes the distinctive shape of the patrol car's front grille, the same one from the gas station. "They're not done," he mutters into the wind, his words lost to the night air. His mind races through options, calculating distances to the next town, wondering if he should call Bones. But before he can decide, more headlights appear on the highway behind them. Two more patrol cars join the first, their presence forming an intimidating convoy. Marcus watches them through his mirrors, his combat training kicking in as he assesses the threat. They're being herded, he realizes, guided like cattle to slaughter. The confirmation comes moments later when a fourth set of headlights appears ahead, coming toward them. A large police cruiser crosses the center line deliberately, forcing both Marcus and Tanya to slow down. The vehicle turns sideways across both lanes, creating an immovable barrier. Marcus recognizes the gold star emblem on the door, the sheriff's personal vehicle. His heart sinks as he brings his Harley to a stop, Tanya pulling up beside him. The patrol cars behind them create a tight box, cutting off any possibility of retreat. The cruiser's spotlight snaps on, bathing them in harsh white light. A voice crackles over the loudspeaker, dripping with false authority. "Step out of the vehicle, Mr. Kane." Marcus turns to look at Tanya through the SUV's window. Her eyes are wide with fear, but there's strength there too. The same strength that's carried them through every challenge they've faced together. He gives her a subtle nod, trying to convey confidence he doesn't entirely feel. "It's gonna be okay," he calls to Darius, loud enough to carry through the car window. "Just stay calm, son." Marcus dismounts his bike slowly, keeping his movements deliberate and non-threatening. His boots crunch on the loose gravel of the shoulder as he takes 2 steps forward, hands raised at shoulder height. The spotlight follows him, creating harsh shadows that dance across the pavement. A figure emerges from behind the light, Sheriff Doyle, his badge catching the glare as he approaches. There's something in his walk, a swagger that speaks of a man who's never had his authority questioned. Behind Marcus, car doors open and close as Tanner and Cole emerge from their vehicles. Everything happens in a blur of motion and sound. Tanner's footsteps come fast and hard from behind. Marcus starts to turn, but it's too late. The officer's tackle sends them both crashing to the asphalt. The impact drives the air from Marcus's lungs as Cole pounces, wrenching his arms back with unnecessary force. The handcuffs bite into his wrists, clicking shut much tighter than necessary. Marcus's cheek scrapes against the rough pavement, reopening his split lip. He can taste blood again, metallic and warm. "Stop it! You can't do this!" Tanya's voice cuts through the night as she bursts from the SUV. The fear in her voice has been replaced by rage, the protective fury of a mother bear defending her cubs. Sheriff Doyle steps between them, his smile visible even in the harsh shadows. "Ma'am, we can do whatever we please." His voice carries the weight of generations of unchecked power. "Your husband assaulted officers of the law. We're just serving justice." "That's a lie." Darius's voice cracks as he scrambles out of the car, tears streaming down his face. "They attacked him first. I recorded it." "That phone's destroyed, boy," Tanner sneers, hauling Marcus to his feet. "Ain't no evidence of nothing." They drag Marcus toward one of the patrol cars, his boots scraping across the ground. He doesn't resist, can't resist, not with Tanya and Darius watching. The rage building inside him has nowhere to go, so he locks it away, saving it for later. "Dad!" Darius's scream tears through the night, raw and primal. It's the sound of innocence shattering, of a child watching his hero fall. Marcus wants to respond, to offer some comfort, but Tanner shoves him into the back of the cruiser before he can speak. Through the window, Marcus watches his family grow smaller as the car pulls away. Tanya holds Darius close, both of them illuminated by the cruel spotlight. The gas station's lights are tiny dots in the distance now, fading like stars at dawn. "You should have walked away, Cole," Marcus whispers to himself, tasting blood and bitter truth. The handcuffs dig into his wrists as the patrol car accelerates into the darkness, carrying him away from everything he loves. The county jail looms against the darkening sky, a squat concrete building that seems to absorb what little light remains. Rain starts to fall as the patrol car pulls into the Sally Port, fat drops drumming against the metal roof. Marcus sits perfectly still in the back seat, his military training helping him maintain his composure despite the rage churning inside. Two deputies yank him from the car, their grips unnecessarily tight on his biceps. The fluorescent lights inside cast a sickly green glow across the booking area's dingy walls. The air smells of bleach and sweat, tinged with something darker. Fear, maybe, or despair. Sheriff Doyle's heavy footsteps echo through the corridor as he approaches. He's a big man, towering over most of his deputies, with cold eyes that remind Marcus of sharks he'd seen during his time in the Pacific. Dead, emotionless, hungry. His uniform stretches tight across his belly, badge gleaming under the harsh lights. "Well, well," Doyle drawls, circling Marcus like a vulture. "Looks like we got ourselves a real tough guy. A Hell's Angel who thinks he can come into my county and disrespect my officers." He stops in front of Marcus, too close, invading his space. "Strip him down, process him, and make sure our biker friend learns some manners." The deputies force Marcus into a small room with concrete walls. One of them, a young guy with acne scars and mean eyes, sneers, "Strip. Everything off?" Marcus complies slowly, methodically, keeping his face neutral even as his dignity is stripped away piece by piece. They make him stand naked while they mock his tattoos, the Marine Corps emblem on his shoulder, the names of fallen brothers on his ribs, the wedding band inked around his finger. "Spread 'em," the acne-scarred deputy orders, snapping on a latex glove with deliberate slowness. The search is rough, humiliating, designed to break him down. Marcus fixes his gaze on a crack in the wall, his mind drifting to the desert. To worse moments he's survived. They issue him orange scrubs that smell of industrial detergent and feel like sandpaper against his skin. The deputies march him down a long corridor lined with cells, other inmates hooting and hollering as he passes. Marcus catalogs everything: the number of turns, the location of cameras, the gaps in surveillance. The cell they throw him into is barely 6 by 8 feet, with a metal toilet sink combo and a thin mattress on a concrete slab. The door clangs shut with finality, the sound echoing off the walls like a death knell. Marcus sits on the edge of the bunk, carefully controlling his breathing. His ribs throb where Tanner kicked him during the arrest, but he pushes the pain aside, compartmentalizing it like he was taught in the Corps. Footsteps approach, heavy, deliberate. A guard appears, different from the others. He's built like a linebacker, with a neck tattoo peeking above his collar. Without warning, his boot connects with Marcus's already bruised ribs. The pain explodes through Marcus's side, but he doesn't make a sound. He's been hit harder, by better men than this. The guard seems disappointed by the lack of reaction. "Not so tough without your biker buddies, are you?" The guard taunts, then spits on the floor before walking away. Marcus leans back against the cold wall, closing his eyes. In his mind, He replays the gas station scene frame by frame. The initial approach, Tanner's aggression, the way Cole circled like a shark. He analyzes each moment, looking for what he could have done differently, finding nothing. "You don't win battles by screaming," he whispers to himself, words his old drill instructor drilled into him lifetime ago. "You win 'em by surviving." The lights in the cell block dim, then go out completely, leaving only the faint glow from the corridor. Outside, thunder rolls across the sky, the sound muffled by thick concrete walls. Marcus lies back on the thin mattress, hands folded across his chest, staring up at the darkness. He thinks of Tanya and Darius, hoping they made it home safely. He imagines Tanya making calls, working her connections. She's always been the smarter one, the planner. Darius will be scared, confused, angry. The memory of his son's scream as they drove away cuts deeper than any physical wound. More thunder rumbles, closer now. The storm moves in like nature's artillery, each boom echoing through the jail's hollow spaces. A few cells down, someone starts singing an old blues song, the kind that speaks of chains and freedom in the same breath. Marcus closes his eyes but doesn't sleep. He's too aware of his surroundings, too conscious of the vulnerability that comes with unconsciousness in a place like this. Instead, he retreats into the mental exercises that kept him sane during worse nights in worse places. Counting breaths, reciting protocols, remembering faces. Rain peppers the small window high in his cell wall, creating patterns of shadow and light when lightning flashes. The storm grows stronger, as if reflecting the turbulence of the night's events. Water begins to seep through a crack in the ceiling, dropping steadily onto the floor with a rhythm like a metronome. Thunder cracks outside as Tanya leads Darius through their front door. Her son's shoulders shake with each sob, his hands still trembling from watching his father being taken away. The house feels empty without Marcus's presence, his leather vest still hanging by the door like a ghost. "It's my fault," Darius chokes out, collapsing onto the living room couch. "I dropped the phone. I had evidence, and I dropped it." His fingers clench and unclench, remembering the moment Tanner knocked the device from his grip. Tanya sits beside him, pulling him close. Her nurse's hands, usually so steady in crisis, tremble slightly as she strokes his back. "No, baby. None of this is your fault. Those officers, they're the ones who did wrong. Not you. Never you." But Darius can't stop shaking. "They hurt Dad, right in front of us, and I couldn't even keep hold of my phone." His voice cracks on the last word, fresh tears spilling down his cheeks. "Listen to me," Tanya says, taking his face in her hands. Her eyes lock with his, fierce and determined despite her own fear. "Your father is strong. He's survived worse than this. And we're going to fight for him, the right way." She reaches for her phone, scrolling through contacts until she finds the number she needs. It's one she hoped she'd never have to use, passed to her by a friend who'd faced similar injustice. Her fingers hover over the name, Aisha Jordan, civil rights attorney. The phone rings 3 times before a crisp voice answers. Aisha Jordan speaking. "Ms. Jordan, my name is Tanya Kane. My husband was just wrongfully arrested after being assaulted by police officers. We need help." Her voice stays steady as she relays the events at the gas station, the brutal arrest on the highway, the smugness in Sheriff Doyle's voice. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Aisha responds without hesitation. "Text me your address." True to her word, exactly 30 minutes later, a sharp knock echoes through the house. Tanya opens the door to find a woman in her late 30s, wearing a perfectly pressed suit despite the late hour. Aisha Jordan carries herself with the confidence of someone who's fought these battles before, and won. "Mrs. Kane," she says, extending her hand. Her grip is firm, reassuring. Let's sit down and go through everything. Every detail matters. They gather at the kitchen table, Darius still sniffling occasionally as he recounts his part of the story. Aisha takes meticulous notes, her pen scratching across her legal pad. Her questions are precise, tactical. "The phone was damaged?" she asks, examining the shattered device Darius places on the table. "Officer Tanner knocked it out of my hand," Darius explains, his voice small. "I was trying to record everything." Aisha's eyes narrow. "That's destruction of evidence. Add it to the list." She turns to Tanya. "We need to move fast. Evidence has a way of disappearing in cases like this. I'm going to the gas station tonight. Security cameras might have caught everything." "I'll come with you," Tanya says, already standing. "No," Aisha replies firmly. "Stay with your son. He needs you here. I'll handle this part." She gathers her things, her movements efficient and purposeful. They think they can hide behind their badges, but they picked the wrong family this time. Within minutes, Aisha's car disappears down the street. Tanya watches through the window as the taillights fade into the darkness. Darius has finally fallen asleep on the couch, exhaustion overwhelming his anxiety. The night clerk at the gas station is young, barely out of his teens. His hands shake as Aisha introduces herself, eyes darting to the door as if expecting trouble. "I saw everything," he admits in a whisper. "Those officers, they started it. Mr. Kane was just getting gas. They came looking for a fight." "The security cameras," Aisha says, pointing to the devices mounted in the corners. "Were they working?" The clerk nods slowly. "Digital system. Records everything, but..." He glances around again, voice dropping even lower. "Sheriff Doyle's people already came by, asking about the footage. Did they take it?" "No." A small smile crosses his face. "Told them the system was down. But it wasn't. Everything's still there." Aisha's expression remains neutral, but satisfaction glows in her eyes. "I'll need a copy. Official subpoena will come tomorrow, but I need to know that footage will still exist by then." The clerk hesitates only a moment before nodding. "Give me 5 minutes." While she waits, Aisha steps outside, surveying the scene. The spilled gasoline has been cleaned up, but dark stains still mark the concrete where Marcus's blood fell. She takes photos with her phone, documenting everything. Back at the Kane house, Tanya stands in the backyard, staring at the horizon where heat lightning flickers in the distance. The air is heavy with humidity and the promise of more storms. She wraps her arms around herself, feeling small against the vastness of the night sky. "Hold on, baby," she whispers into the darkness. "We're coming for you." The words float away on the wind, carrying her promise into the night. Behind her, through the window, she can see Darius still sleeping on the couch, his face finally peaceful in slumber. She stays there for a long moment, drawing strength from the quiet. Tomorrow will bring its own battles. Phone calls to make, statements to give, a system to fight. But for now, in this moment between crisis and action, she allows herself to feel the full weight of her fear, her anger, her love. Inside the county jail, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps. Marcus lay on his thin mattress, every breath sending sharp pains through his ribs where the guards had kicked him. The cell was barely big enough to pace in, with concrete walls covered in years of scratched messages from previous inmates. A guard's baton rattled against the bars. "Rise and shine, tough guy." The voice dripped with mockery. Marcus didn't move, didn't give them the satisfaction of a response. He'd learned in the Marines that sometimes silence was the strongest weapon. "I said get up." The guard slammed the baton harder, the metal clang echoing through the cell block. Marcus stood slowly, his face a mask of calm despite the pain. The guard, Miller, according to his nameplate, sneered through the bars. "Inspection time, biker boy." They made him stand there while they tossed his cell, scattering his few belongings across the floor. His mattress was flipped, pillow torn open. When they found nothing, their frustration showed in harder shoves, rougher handling. "Hands on the wall!" Miller barked. The pat-down was deliberately rough, designed to humiliate. Marcus fixed his eyes on a crack in the concrete, remembering Tanya's words. "Stay strong, but stay smart." In the yard later that day, Marcus kept to himself, watching, learning the rhythms of the place. The other inmates gave him space. His reputation had preceded him. All except one. "That's quite a patch you earned." The voice came from an older black man sitting at a nearby table, his gray hair cropped close to his scalp. His eyes were sharp, intelligent. "Name's Reggie. Used to be a pastor before they put me in here on trumped-up charges." Marcus studied him for a moment before sitting down. There was something trustworthy in Reggie's weathered face, a dignity that prison hadn't stripped away. 15 years, Reggie continued, nodding toward the guards. "Watched a lot of men come through here thinking their reputation would protect them. But in here?" He tapped the table. "In here, that patch don't mean what it means out there." "I know that," Marcus replied quietly. "Do you?" Reggie leaned forward. "Because what I see is a man holding on to his anger like it's gonna save him. But you got something better than anger. You got power out there. Real power. The kind that makes men like Doyle nervous." Before Marcus could respond, Deputy Cole's voice cut through their conversation. He stood at the yard's fence, his badge gleaming in the sun. "Well, well, the mighty biker. Making friends already?" Marcus didn't turn around. Cole walked closer, his boots crunching on gravel. "You know what I see when I look at you? Not that patch you're so proud of. Just another—" "Choose your next word carefully," Marcus said softly, still not turning. Cole laughed, but there was uncertainty in it. "No patch saves you here, Kane. Remember that." He walked away, trying to maintain his swagger. Reggie watched him go. "That one's scared. Scared men are dangerous." "I know his type," Marcus replied. "Follows orders. Tells himself he's just doing his job. But he enjoys it too much." The day dragged on, marked by more random searches, more routine inspections. Each time, the guards found new ways to make it hurt without leaving marks. Marcus absorbed it all, filing away every face, every name, every insult. That night, lying in his cell, Marcus heard voices echoing from the guard station. He recognized Cole's nervous tone, Tanner's angry growl. "The report needs work," Cole was saying. "We can't just say, 'We say whatever I tell you to say,'" Tanner snapped. "Write that he swung first. Write that he resisted. Make it stick." Their laughter drifted down the corridor. "Man, did you see his face when I knocked that phone out of the kid's hand?" Marcus's fingers tightened on his thin blanket. He thought of Darius's terrified expression, Tanya's screams. The image of his son watching him being dragged away burned behind his eyes. Rising from his bunk, Marcus moved to the bars. His hands wrapped around the cold metal, knuckles white with tension. In the dim light, his shadow stretched long behind him. "You better hope I never get out," he whispered, the words carried away by the hum of the fluorescent lights. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise, sealed in blood and dignity. The night settled around him, filled with the sounds of the jail. Distant coughs, muffled sobs, the occasional shout. Marcus stayed at the bars, perfectly still, letting the cold steel ground him. Every insult, every kick, every moment of humiliation, he stored them all away, building a foundation not of rage, but of purpose. Reggie's words echoed in his mind. "You got power out there. Yes, he did. The patch on his back represented more than just membership. It represented brotherhood, resources, connections, but more importantly, it represented justice of a different kind. Not the twisted version these guards dealt in, but something deeper, more permanent. From the next cell, he heard Reggie's voice, soft in the darkness. "Keep your head, brother. Your time will come." Marcus nodded, though no one could see him. The guard's laughter had faded, but their words remained, joining the growing list of debts that would eventually come due. He returned to his bunk, lying down with deliberate calm. Outside his cell, a guard made his rounds, flashlight beams sweeping across the walls. Let them laugh, Marcus thought. Let them think they had all the power. He closed his eyes, picturing Tanya's strength, Darius's courage. They were out there, fighting for him, and he would be ready when his moment came. The fluorescent lights buzzed in the cramped back office of the gas station as Luis Ortega shifted nervously in his chair. His eyes darted between Aisha Jordan's determined face and Tanya's pleading expression. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight. "I could lose my job," Luis said, his fingers drumming on the desk. "The owner, he doesn't like trouble." Aisha leaned forward, her voice firm but gentle. "Mr. Ortega, what happened here was wrong. You saw it yourself." She placed a business card on his desk. "I'm not just a lawyer. I'm someone trying to help a family get justice." Luis rubbed his temples, remembering the sound of Marcus hitting the concrete, the sight of Darius's phone shattering. "The cops, they come here all the time. If they find out I helped, they won't." Tanya spoke softly, her nurse's compassion showing through. "We just need the truth, Luis. That's all we're asking for." Luis looked at the small photo frame on his desk, his own family smiling back at him. He thought about his son, not much younger than Darius. After a long moment, he nodded slowly. "The system backs up everything to an external drive," he explained, turning to his computer. "But it only keeps footage for 72 hours before overwriting." Aisha's breath caught. "We're cutting it close." Luis typed rapidly, navigating through folders. The computer hummed as it searched. Minutes stretched like hours as they waited. The only sound, the gentle whir of the ancient cooling fan. "Here," Luis said finally, double-clicking a file. The video player opened, showing multiple camera angles of the gas station. Camera 3 covers the pumps. They watched in tense silence as the scene unfolded on screen. The high-angle view captured everything. Marcus calmly fueling his bike, the patrol car's aggressive approach, Tanner's threatening posture. The audio was scratchy, but clear enough to hear the officers' escalating threats. Tanya gripped the back of Luis's chair as they watched her husband being assaulted. The footage showed exactly what happened. Marcus defending himself without throwing a single punch. The officer's unprovoked violence. Darius's phone being knocked away. "Copy it," Aisha commanded, pulling a flash drive from her briefcase. "Copy everything." Luis's fingers trembled slightly as he transferred the files. The progress bar seemed to crawl. Outside, a car passed by, and everyone tensed until its headlights faded. "I'll need you to sign a statement," Aisha told Luis, already pulling out paperwork, confirming this footage is authentic and unaltered. Luis hesitated only briefly before signing. "Just be careful with this, please." Tanya touched his shoulder gently. "Thank you. You don't know what this means to us." The drive back to Tanya's house was electric with possibility. Aisha was already on her phone, speaking rapidly to a contact at the local news station. "I've got concrete evidence of police brutality. Yes, I know what time it is. Trust me, you'll want this for your morning broadcast." In the passenger seat, Tanya watched the empty streets blur past, hope rising in her chest for the first time in days. They pulled into her driveway to find Darius still awake, sitting on the porch steps despite the late hour. "Did you get it?" he asked, jumping up as they approached. Aisha held up the flash drive. "We got it all, honey. Every second." Inside, they huddled around Tanya's laptop, watching the footage again. Darius's hands clenched into fists as he watched his father being attacked, but there was determination in his young face. "Can I put it online?" he asked. "People need to see this." Aisha considered for a moment. "Just a short clip for now. We don't want to show our whole hand before the news story breaks." Darius nodded, already pulling out his phone. He worked quickly, selecting a 30-second segment that showed the clearest view of the officer's aggression. His fingers flew over the screen as he posted it to multiple platforms. "Now we wait," Aisha said, checking her watch. "The morning news team is already working on the story. By breakfast, the whole county will see what really happened." Tanya made coffee, her hands steadier than they'd been in days. They sat in the living room, watching Darius's post slowly begin to gather attention. One share became 10, then 50, then hundreds. "Look," Darius pointed at his screen around 2 a.m. A major civil rights activist had shared the video. Comments were pouring in, each notification a small victory bell. Tanya smiled, really smiled, for the first time since watching Marcus being dragged away. "They'll see the truth now," she whispered, wrapping an arm around her son. Aisha was already preparing her next moves, making notes on her laptop. "We'll need to file an emergency motion for release based on this new evidence. The media coverage will help put pressure on the department. But the legal battle is just beginning." The night stretched on, but none of them felt tired. They were energized by purpose, by the knowledge that justice had been captured in digital clarity. The footage was irrefutable, a stark record of truth that no amount of police reports could contradict. By 3 a.m., the video had gone viral within their state. Hashtags were trending. Local news stations were calling Aisha's phone. The truth was spreading like wildfire, pixels of justice igniting screens across the country. Through it all, Tanya kept her eyes on the family photo hanging on the wall. Marcus in his leather vest, smiling, one arm around her, the other around Darius. Soon, she thought, soon they would be together again. Outside, the night was giving way to pre-dawn gray, but inside Tanya's house, hope burned bright and clear, fueled by truth, finally set free. Dawn broke over the county jail as the first news vans pulled into the parking lot. Inside the break room, deputies gathered around a small TV mounted on the wall, their coffee cups frozen halfway to their mouths as the footage played. "Breaking news this morning," the anchor announced, her voice grave. "Exclusive video reveals disturbing evidence of police brutality at a local gas station." The crystal-clear security footage filled the screen. There was no hiding from the truth. Marcus calmly pumping gas, the officer's aggressive approach, the unprovoked assault. The audio caught every threat, every slur. The victim, identified as Marcus Kane, is a decorated Marine veteran and high-ranking member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, the reporter continued. Sources say he remains in custody on what his attorney calls fabricated charges. Phones started ringing throughout the station. Social media exploded. Local residents began gathering outside the sheriff's office, their numbers growing by the minute. They carried signs, "Justice for Marcus Kane," and "Bad badges must fall." In his cell, Marcus heard the growing commotion outside. The usual morning quiet was replaced by distant chants and car horns. Other inmates pressed against their windows, trying to see what was happening. Reggie, his elderly cellmate, called from the top bunk. "Something's happening out there, brother." "Can feel it in the air." The guards paced more frequently, their radios crackling with urgent messages. Their usual swagger was replaced by nervous glances. One rookie officer practically ran past Marcus's cell, avoiding eye contact. Around 9 a.m., a deep rumble filled the air. The unmistakable sound of dozens of motorcycles approaching. The walls seemed to vibrate with their thunder. Marcus smiled slightly, knowing his brothers had arrived. The Hells Angels national press release hit every major news outlet. We demand the immediate release of Vice President Marcus Kane, victim of racial profiling and police violence. The full weight of our organization stands behind him. This injustice will not stand. Sheriff Doyle burst into the cell block, his face red with fury. His boots echoed on the concrete as he stormed toward Marcus's cell. Two deputies flanked him, hands nervously resting on their weapons. "You think you can turn the country against me?" Doyle snarled, spittle flying through the bars. Marcus stood slowly, his calm presence filling the small cell. "Looks like it's already happening." His voice was quiet, but carried an edge sharp enough to cut steel. "I run this county." Doyle slammed his hand against the bars. "Not for long," Marcus replied, unflinching. "That video shows everything. Your boys messed up, Sheriff. Now everybody knows it." Outside, the roar of motorcycles grew deafening. Hundreds of bikes circled the jail, their engines creating a wall of sound that made the windows rattle. The protest crowd cheered at their arrival. Local news cameras captured the scene. Leather-clad bikers parking in perfect formation, their patches gleaming in the morning sun. Veterans groups joined them, American flags raised high. Civil rights activists linked arms with bikers. An unlikely alliance united in purpose. Back in the cell block, the tension was electric. Guards whispered among themselves, their usual bravado cracking. Through his window, Marcus could see small fragments of the gathering crowd. The sound of their chants filtered through. "Free Marcus Kane! Free Marcus Kane!" Reggie chuckled from his bunk. "They ain't ready for this kind of heat, brother. Look at them sweating." Marcus watched Doyle's face carefully, noting the flicker of fear behind the anger. The sheriff's power was built on intimidation, but now he was the one feeling intimidated. "Your badge won't protect you from the truth," Marcus said softly. "Those cameras caught everything. Every lie in your report is about to come out." Doyle stepped closer to the bars, lowering his voice to a harsh whisper. "You think some bikers and protesters scare me? I've handled worse." "This isn't about fear," Marcus replied. "It's about justice, and it's coming for you, whether you're scared or not." Another wave of motorcycles arrived, their combined rumble drowning out all other sounds. The jail staff looked increasingly uncomfortable. Through the windows, they could see news helicopters circling overhead. A deputy rushed in, whispering urgently in Doyle's ear. The sheriff's face darkened as he listened. Without another word, he turned and stormed out, his boots clicking rapidly on the concrete. The other inmates began banging on their cells, adding to the cacophony outside. The rhythm matched the chants of the protesters. "Free him! Free him!" Marcus sat back on his bunk, perfectly still and composed. He could picture Tanya and Darius out there in the crowd, standing strong. The thought brought a slight smile to his face. Through his window, he caught glimpses of familiar patches, Hells Angels chapters from across the country. The red and white colors flashed in the morning sun. Their message was clear. Touch one of us, you deal with all of us. "Your people came through," Reggie observed, peering out their small window. "They're not just my people," Marcus replied. "Look out there. Bikers, veterans, locals, activists. This is about right and wrong. Everybody sees it now." The sound of running feet echoed through the corridor as more deputies rushed past. Their radios crackled with panic. "We need backup at the front entrance. The crowd is still growing. Media requesting statements." Marcus closed his eyes, letting the thunder of motorcycle engines wash over him. Each rumble was a reminder. Justice was coming. The truth was out. And no badge, no bar, no cell could stop it now. The morning sun cast long shadows across the courthouse steps as Marcus emerged, blinking in the bright light. The past 72 hours felt like a blur. Emergency bail hearings, frantic legal motions, and finally, temporary release granted under strict conditions. Tanya and Darius stood at the bottom of the steps, surrounded by a protective circle of leather-clad bikers. The moment Marcus appeared, Darius broke free and ran up the stairs, nearly knocking his father over as he crashed into him. "Dad!" Darius sobbed, his face pressed against Marcus's chest. "I thought they'd keep you forever." Marcus wrapped his arms around his son, his composure cracking for the first time since his arrest. Tears rolled down his weathered cheeks as he held his boy close. "I'm here now, son. I'm here." Tanya climbed the steps more slowly, her own tears flowing freely. When she reached them, Marcus pulled her into the embrace. The family stood there, holding each other, their bodies shaking with emotion. "I'm so sorry," Marcus whispered into his wife's hair. "I never wanted you both to see that." "Don't you dare apologize," Tanya said fiercely. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing." The crowd of supporters erupted in cheers. Bikes revved their engines in celebration. News cameras captured the moment as the family descended the courthouse steps together. Bones approached, clasping Marcus's hand in a firm grip. "We've got something planned for you, brother. Big rally tonight. Show these badge-heavy bastards what real power looks like." By sunset, the town's main park was packed with thousands of supporters. Bikes lined every available space, their chrome gleaming in the fading light. Veterans stood shoulder to shoulder with club members. Local families brought their children. Civil rights activists raised their fists in solidarity. A makeshift stage had been erected, draped with American flags and club colors. When Marcus took the microphone, the crowd fell silent. "Look around you," Marcus began, his voice carrying across the park. "What do you see? They wanted you to see a threat, a criminal, a thug." He paused, scanning the sea of faces. "Instead, you see a father, a veteran, a man who served his country with honor." The crowd cheered. Marcus raised his hand for quiet. "But this isn't about me. This is about every person who's been wrongly targeted, every citizen who's felt the sting of prejudice wearing a badge, every child who's learned too early that justice isn't always just." Darius stood proudly beside his father, Tanya's arm around his shoulders. The boy's eyes shone with admiration. "They thought a black man in this patch couldn't stand tall," Marcus continued. "They were wrong. We don't bend. Not to cowards, not to corrupt badges, not to hate. We stand together. Bikers, veterans, families, Americans. That's what real strength looks like." The response was deafening. Engines roared. People chanted his name. Marcus stepped back from the microphone, overwhelmed by the support. The rally continued late into the night, a peaceful but powerful demonstration of unity. When the family finally headed home, they felt stronger, protected, invincible. That feeling shattered at 3 a.m. The crash of breaking glass jolted them awake. Marcus leaped from bed, grabbing the baseball bat he kept nearby. Tanya reached for her phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. "Darius, stay in your room!" Marcus shouted, moving through the dark house. More windows shattered. The sound of spray paint cans hissing, car doors slamming, engines starting. Then Tanya screamed from the front door. "Marcus, the lawn!" He rushed to her side. There, illuminating their front yard with hellish light, stood a burning cross. The flames reached toward the sky, casting twisted shadows across their home's walls. now defaced with bright red letters spelling traitors. Marcus ran to the garage, grabbed a bucket, filled it at the outdoor spigot. His hands trembled with rage as he doused the flames. Steam hissed into the night air. The acrid smell of burnt wood filled his nostrils. Darius appeared in the doorway, his young face pale with fear. "Dad, get back inside," Marcus ordered, his voice tight with controlled fury. "Both of you, inside now." Distant sirens wailed, getting closer with agonizing slowness. Marcus stood in his front yard, fists clenched, staring at the smoking cross and the hateful words dripping down his walls. Red and blue lights finally painted the street. 2 patrol cars pulled up, officers stepping out with deliberate casualness. One smirked slightly as he surveyed the damage. "Looks like vandalism," the officer drawled, taking out a notepad with exaggerated slowness. "Could take a while to investigate." Marcus turned to face him, his eyes burning with barely contained rage. The officer's smirk faltered slightly under that gaze. "They want a war," Marcus said softly, his voice carrying in the pre-dawn silence. "They just might get one." The words hung in the air like smoke from the extinguished cross. Behind him, Tanya held Darius close, both watching through the broken window as Marcus stood his ground, silhouetted against the fading darkness of another long night in a battle that was far from over. 3 days after the cross burning, morning sunlight streamed through the hastily boarded windows of the Kane home. Tanya sat at the kitchen table sorting through bills and insurance forms, while Marcus helped Darius with his math homework. The family had settled into an uneasy routine, trying to maintain normalcy despite the constant police surveillance car parked across the street. The mail slot clinked. Marcus rose to collect the letters, rifling through advertisements and bills until his hand froze on an official-looking envelope. His jaw tightened as he read the return address. County Court. "What is it?" Tanya asked, noticing his expression. Marcus tore open the envelope, his eyes scanning the document inside. His face darkened with each line. "Court summons," he said flatly. "New charges. Felony assault on a peace officer." "What?" Tanya jumped up, grabbing the paper from his hands. "But you're out on bail. They can't just—" She stopped, her hands shaking as she read. "This is impossible. You never touched those officers." Darius looked up from his homework, fear creeping back into his eyes. "Dad?" Marcus placed a steady hand on his son's shoulder. "It's okay. Let me call Aisha." Before he could reach his phone, it rang. Aisha's number flashed on the screen. "Marcus," she said without preamble, her voice tight with controlled anger. "I just got the notification. Doyle's behind this. My contact at the courthouse says he submitted new evidence yesterday. Allegedly recovered dashboard camera footage showing you throwing the first punch." "That's a lie," Tanya shouted, close enough to hear. "We have the gas station video. They're claiming this happened before the gas station footage starts," Aisha explained. "I'm certain it's fabricated, but they're moving fast. Too fast." "Something's wrong." Marcus paced the kitchen, his boots heavy on the linoleum. "What are we looking at?" "With these new charges? 5 to 10 years, minimum." Aisha paused. "Marcus, they're going to come for you. Soon. This is Doyle's play to get you back behind bars where he can—" Headlights swept across the boarded windows. Multiple vehicles pulling up outside. "They're here," Marcus said quietly. "Don't resist," Aisha ordered. "I'm on my way. Whatever happens, we'll fight this." Heavy footsteps approached the front door. Darius grabbed his father's arm. "Dad, please!" The pounding began. "FBI, open up!" Marcus looked at Tanya, who was already moving toward the door. "Wait," he said softly. He knelt in front of Darius, placing both hands on his son's trembling shoulders. "Look at me, son. Remember what I taught you about being strong?" Darius nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks. "This isn't goodbye," It's just more fighting to do. Trust your mama. Trust Aisha. They know how to win this battle. The pounding grew louder. Last warning! Open the door! Tanya opened it before they could break it down. 4 FBI agents in tactical gear burst in, weapons drawn. Behind them stood Sheriff Doyle, a satisfied smile on his face. Marcus Kane, the lead agent announced, "You're under arrest for assault on a peace officer. Put your hands where we can see them." Marcus slowly raised his hands, keeping his movements deliberate and calm. "My son's here. Let's keep this peaceful." 2 agents approached with handcuffs, while the others kept their weapons trained on Marcus. The cold steel clicked around his wrists. "No!" Darius broke free from Tanya's grip, running to his father. "Please don't take him. He didn't do anything wrong." "Darius," Marcus said firmly, though his heart was breaking, "stay with your mother. I need you to be strong for her now." The agents began leading Marcus toward the door. Darius followed, sobbing, until Tanya caught him in her arms. "Baby, stop! We have to let them—" "This is wrong!" Darius screamed at the agents. "You're helping bad people." "You're supposed to stop bad people." Sheriff Doyle stepped forward, his badge catching the morning light. "Son, your daddy's a criminal. We're just doing our—" "Don't you dare speak to my child!" Tanya cut him off, her voice like ice. "Not one word." The sheriff's smile widened as he tipped his hat. "Ma'am." They led Marcus out into the dawn light. Neighbors watched from behind curtains as the FBI loaded him into a black SUV. Motorcycle engines rumbled in the distance, fellow club members keeping watch, but powerless to intervene against federal agents. Tanya and Darius stood in the driveway, watching the SUV pull away. Marcus's face appeared in the rear window, proud and unbowed, until the vehicle turned the corner and disappeared. Tanya's knees gave out. She sank to the concrete, pulling Darius close as he wept against her chest. Her whispered words carried the weight of a promise and the heat of gathering fury. "Not this time. They won't win this time." Above them, the sun continued its climb into the morning sky, indifferent to the injustice unfolding below. The sound of approaching motorcycles grew louder as club members converged on the house, coming to stand guard over the family their brother had been forced to leave behind. In the distance, a police scanner crackled with the confirmation Sheriff Doyle had been waiting to hear. "Suspect in custody, en route to federal holding." Aisha Jordan's office hummed with the quiet intensity of late-night work. Coffee cups littered her desk, and case files formed mountain ranges across every surface. Her eyes burned from staring at her computer screen, but she couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Not when Marcus was back in custody, based on lies. Her phone buzzed, another anonymous text. "Check your email, now." Aisha clicked refresh. A new message appeared from an address she didn't recognize, guard788protonmail.com. The subject line read, "Doyle, proof." Her hand trembled slightly as she clicked. A single audio file was attached, titled sheriffoffice.mp3. She plugged in her headphones and pressed play. Sheriff Doyle's distinctive drawl filled her ears. "Got that biker right where I want him. Think he's tough with that patch? Wait till he sees what happens to smart mouths in my jail." Another voice, Deputy Cole, responded nervously, "Sir, with the media attention—" "Media attention?" Doyle laughed. "Boy, I've been putting folks in their place longer than you've been alive. That gas station thing? Just the beginning. By the time we're done, he'll wish he never rode through my county." Aisha's fingers flew across her keyboard, documenting every word. Her heart raced as the recording continued. "But the footage," Cole started. "Footage shows what I say it shows," Doyle cut in. "You and Tanner stick to the story. That thug hit first, resisted arrest, threatened officers. Simple as that." The slur made Aisha's blood boil. She checked the recording's metadata: date, time, location, all embedded. This wasn't just evidence. This was ammunition. She dialed a number she'd memorized, the jail's internal line for attorney calls. "I need to speak with Reggie Lawson." Legal call. Minutes later, Reggie's calm voice came through. "Ms. Jordan, figured you'd be calling. Reggie, I need confirmation. What's happening inside?" A long pause. "It's bad. Guards roughing him up every chance they get. Doyle comes by personal to supervise. Made Cole and Tanner write up false reports about Marcus starting fights. You willing to testify to this? For Marcus? In a heartbeat. Man's been nothing but dignity since they brought him in. Plus," Reggie lowered his voice, "I overheard Doyle talking to the guards. Said he'd make an example of Marcus. Said no black man wearing that patch was going to challenge his authority." Aisha's pen scratched furiously across her legal pad. "Keep watching, Reggie. Document everything. Already am. Got dates, times, names. Even got one guard willing to talk. Young kid, can't stomach what he's seeing." After hanging up, Aisha called Tanya. Despite the late hour, she answered on the first ring. "I've got something," Aisha said. "But I need more. Those witnesses from the gas station, we need official statements." "I'm ahead of you," Tanya replied. Papers rustled in the background. "Luis, the station owner, he's willing to sign an affidavit about the security footage. Says Doyle tried to pressure him into losing it." "Perfect. Who else?" "3 customers who saw everything. The teenage cashier. Even got a trucker who recorded part of it on his phone. Different angle than Darius's video." Aisha pulled up her case timeline. "We need to move fast. Federal charges mean federal rules. Get those affidavits tomorrow. I'll send a notary to you." She ended the call and stared at her evidence wall. Photos, documents, and sticky notes created a web of corruption centered on Doyle's smirking official portrait. Now, finally, she had the missing piece. Her office door opened. Her paralegal, James, entered with fresh coffee and wide eyes. "You need to see this," he said, turning his tablet toward her. A social media post was going viral. Cell phone footage from inside the jail. A guard had secretly recorded Doyle screaming at Marcus in his cell. "Ain't so tough without your gang, are you? This is my house." The view count was climbing by thousands every minute. Comments flooded in from across the country. The hashtag Justice for Marcus was trending. "Download everything," Aisha ordered, her voice sharp with purpose. "Screenshot the numbers, document the spread. I want this preserved before they try to take it down." She turned back to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard as she drafted an emergency motion. The evidence was coalescing. The audio recording, Reggie's testimony, witness affidavits, viral videos, a pattern of harassment, racism, and abuse of power so clear it couldn't be ignored. Her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous text. "More coming. Keep watching." Aisha smiled grimly at her reflection in the dark window. "You're done, Sheriff," she whispered, continuing to type. "You just don't know it yet." She worked through the night, building her case piece by piece. The recording played on repeat in her headphones, each replay strengthening her resolve. Every racist word, every admission of corruption, every threat would be played in court. Let a jury hear the real Sheriff Doyle. Dawn was breaking when James brought another coffee. "Local news is picking up the story," he reported. "They're running the jail footage at 6. Aisha nodded, still typing. The motion now ran 60 pages, a comprehensive documentation of civil rights violations, witness tampering, evidence fabrication, and racial discrimination. She'd named them all. Doyle, Cole, Tanner, every guard who participated. Her phone lit up with a text from Tanya. "First witness ready to sign. When do we start?" Aisha looked at her evidence wall one more time. Doyle's photo seemed less imposing now, his smirk more desperate than confident. Everything was falling into place. She texted back, "Be there in an hour. Time to show them what justice really looks like." The county courthouse loomed like a stern grandfather, all marble columns and heavy wooden doors. Inside courtroom 3, morning light filtered through tall windows, casting long shadows across the packed gallery. Marcus sat at the defense table in a crisp suit, his usual leather vest replaced by tailored professionalism. Behind him, rows of Hell's Angels members filled the benches, their colors deliberately absent, but their presence unmistakable. Tanya squeezed his hand under the table. Darius sat rigid beside her, trying to look brave. The boy hadn't slept well since the arrests began, but today his eyes were clear and focused. Judge Merriman entered, her black robes rustling. "Court is now in session," the bailiff announced. The room settled into tense silence. The prosecutor, a young man named Davidson, approached the podium. "The state will prove that Marcus Kane assaulted 2 officers during a routine stop." "Objection!" Aisha's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Counsel's characterization of a routine stop prejudices the jury when evidence will show racial profiling." "Sustained," Judge Merriman nodded. "Choose your words carefully, Mr. Davidson." Davidson fumbled through his opening statement, his confidence already shaken. When Aisha rose for the defense, her presence commanded the room. She moved with deliberate grace, each step measured. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice rich with controlled anger. "This case isn't about a traffic stop. It's about abuse of power. It's about a sheriff's department that decided the law doesn't apply to them. Today, you'll see exactly what happened at that gas station. Not their version, the truth." She gestured to a large screen being wheeled in. "The prosecution claims Mr. Kane attacked first. The video tells a different story." The lights dimmed. The security footage began to play, crystal clear from multiple angles. The courtroom watched as Officer Tanner approached Marcus aggressively, as Deputy Cole circled like a predator. They saw Marcus's calm responses, his raised hands, his attempts to de-escalate. When Tanner threw the first punch, several jurors gasped. The footage showed Marcus defending himself without striking back, even as both officers tackled him to the ground. Someone in the gallery muttered, "Jesus Christ!" Aisha let the video run in its entirety. When the lights came up, she faced the jury. "That's what really happened, but it gets worse." She pressed play on an audio file. Sheriff Doyle's voice filled the courtroom, every racist slur and threatening statement echoing off the walls. Marcus watched the jury's faces. Shock, disgust, anger. One elderly woman covered her mouth with her hand. "Your Honor," Davidson jumped up, "this recording was obtained legally by a whistleblower," Aisha countered. "Chain of custody documented. Timestamps verified. Would you like to see the authentication report?" Judge Merriman waved Davidson down. "The recording stands." Aisha called her first witness, Deputy Alan Cole. He shuffled to the stand, avoiding eye contact with everyone, especially Sheriff Doyle, who sat glowering in the front row. "Deputy Cole," Aisha approached slowly, "please tell us about the instructions you received regarding Mr. Kane's arrest." Cole swallowed hard. We were told to handle it normally." "Really?" Aisha picked up a document. "Is that why you wrote in your report that Mr. Kane struck first, despite what we just saw on video?" Sweat beaded on Cole's forehead. His eyes darted to Doyle, then back to his hands. I was told to write it that way." "By whom?" Cole's voice cracked. "Sheriff Doyle. He told us to rough him up. Said we needed to teach him a lesson about knowing his place." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Judge Merriman banged her gavel once. "And did you object to these illegal orders?" Aisha pressed. "No, ma'am." Cole's shoulders slumped. "I just did what I was told. We all did. The sheriff said he'd handle any complaints, that nobody would believe a black biker over us anyway." Suddenly, Sheriff Doyle leaped up from his seat. "You lying piece of—" He lunged toward Cole, face purple with rage. "I'll kill you!" Chaos erupted. Deputies rushed to restrain Doyle as he thrashed and screamed obscenities. Judge Merriman's gavel cracked like gunshots. "Remove Sheriff Doyle," she ordered, "and place him under arrest for threatening a witness. Bailiff, take him into custody." As deputies dragged Doyle out, he kept screaming, "You're dead, Cole. You hear me? Dead." The judge turned to the jury. "The outburst you just witnessed will be stricken from the record, but you may consider the defendant's demeanor." Marcus felt Tanya's hand trembling in his. He looked at her, seeing tears glistening in her eyes. Not tears of fear or sadness, but of relief. Beside her, Darius sat straighter, watching justice unfold with wide eyes. Cole remained on the stand, looking both terrified and somehow lighter. Aisha approached him again once order was restored. "Deputy Cole, would you like to revise your official statement about the events at the gas station?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am. I want to tell the truth. All of it." The jury leaned forward as Cole began to speak, detailing months of systematic harassment, racial profiling, and evidence tampering under Doyle's leadership. With each admission, the prosecution's case crumbled further. Marcus watched it all with quiet intensity, his face a mask of dignity. The truth was finally emerging, not in whispers or protests, but in a court of law, under oath, impossible to ignore or deny. The afternoon dragged like molasses as the jury deliberated. In the courthouse hallway, Marcus paced slowly, his footsteps echoing off marble floors. Tanya sat on a wooden bench, her nurse's scrubs replaced by a modest blue dress, her hands clasped in silent prayer. Darius leaned against the wall, his phone forgotten in his pocket, watching his father's measured steps. Aisha stood by the window, her briefcase at her feet. "They've been out 4 hours," she said softly. "That's good. It means they're being thorough." The hall was packed with supporters. Bikers in civilian clothes spoke in hushed tones. Local activists held vigil. Reporters waited with cameras ready, though Judge Merriman had banned them from the courtroom itself. Marcus stopped pacing and sat beside Tanya, taking her hand. She squeezed it tight, her wedding ring pressing into his palm. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "we faced them together." Darius moved closer to his parents, standing protective watch. The boy had grown older these past weeks, shoulders straighter, eyes sharper. He'd seen too much, learned too much about the world's darkness, but he'd also witnessed strength and solidarity. Another hour crawled by. The tension built with each passing minute. Marcus noticed Cole's wife crying quietly in a corner, alone and shunned. Even in his anger, he felt a flicker of pity. Her husband's choices had destroyed their family too. Finally, at 4:47 p.m., the bailiff appeared. The jury has reached a verdict. The courtroom filled quickly, every creak of the wooden benches like thunder in the silence. Marcus straightened his tie, a gesture of respect for the process, even though that same system had tried to break him. Judge Merriman entered, her face unreadable. "Please bring in the jury." 12 people filed in, their faces serious. Marcus studied them, the elderly black woman who'd gasped at the video, the young white man who'd taken careful notes, the Hispanic mother who'd wiped tears during testimony. They avoided his gaze, as jurors often do before delivering a verdict. "Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?" Judge Merriman asked. The foreman stood, a middle-aged teacher with kind eyes. "We have, Your Honor. On the count of assaulting a police officer, how do you find?" We find the defendant, Marcus Kane, not guilty. A soft murmur rippled through the gallery. Tanya's grip tightened. On the count of resisting arrest? Not guilty. On the count of obstruction of justice? Not guilty. With each declaration, the weight lifted. Marcus remained still, but Tanya trembled beside him. Darius grabbed both their hands, forming a circle of shared strength. Judge Merriman turned to Marcus. Mr. Kane, you are hereby acquitted of all charges. You are free to go. She paused, then added, On behalf of this court, I extend our sincere apologies for what you and your family have endured. Before the words fully settled, she continued, Officers Cole and Tanner, please rise. The disgraced officers stood, their badges and uniforms long since surrendered. This court has reviewed your plea agreements. Based on your admission of guilt to charges of assault, filing false reports, and civil rights violations, you are hereby sentenced to 5 years in state prison. She fixed them with a stern gaze. Your actions dishonored your badges and violated the trust of this community. Cole nodded slightly, accepting his fate. Tanner stared at the floor, his former arrogance shattered. As deputies led them away, Marcus watched without satisfaction or anger, just a quiet acknowledgement that justice, however imperfect, had been served. The courtroom erupted in celebration. Bikers hugged each other, their tough exteriors cracking with joy. Activists cheered. Even some of the courthouse staff wiped away tears. Aisha gathered her papers, a small smile playing at her lips. It's over, she said simply. Marcus stood slowly, helping Tanya to her feet. She fell into his arms, sobbing with relief. Darius wrapped his arms around them both, his face pressed against his father's chest. You won, Dad, Darius whispered, his voice muffled but clear. Marcus pulled back slightly, looking at his son with fierce pride. No, we did. All of us. Together. They made their way out of the courtroom, through the halls where Marcus had paced in chains just weeks before. Each step felt different now, not the heavy trudge of a prisoner, but the steady stride of a vindicated man. The courthouse doors opened to bright afternoon sunlight. A crowd had gathered on the steps, held back by barricades. News cameras rolled as hundreds of bikes roared to life, a thunderous salute that echoed off the buildings. Marcus emerged into the light, Tanya on one side, Darius on the other. Behind them, a wall of supporters cheered. Bikers revved their engines in waves, the sound rolling like battlefield drums of victory. The sun felt warmer somehow, the air sweeter. Marcus breathed deeply, savoring his first true moment of freedom. Not just freedom from charges, but freedom from fear, from injustice, from the shadow that had hung over his family. A reporter thrust a microphone forward. Mr. Kane, how do you feel? Marcus looked at his wife's tear-streaked smile, his son's shining eyes, the crowd of people who had stood with them. He thought of Cole's confession, of Doyle's rage, of all the nights in a cell wondering if truth would prevail. The bikes roared louder, a soundtrack to redemption. 4 weeks after the verdict, Marcus stood at a podium in front of the county courthouse, the same steps where he'd tasted freedom. But today wasn't about his case. Today was about making sure no other family would face what his had endured alone. Television cameras crowded the plaza as Marcus adjusted the microphone. Behind him, a large banner read, "The Darius Project," in bold letters, with the tagline, "Justice shouldn't stand alone," beneath it. Tanya sat in the front row, wearing a crisp business suit, her nursing schedule cleared for this moment. Beside her, Darius fidgeted with his tie, looking both proud and slightly embarrassed at having a foundation named after him. "When they threw me in that cell," Marcus began, his voice steady and clear, I made two promises to myself. First, that I would prove my innocence. Second, that once I did, I wouldn't just walk away and forget. Today, we're keeping that second promise." He gestured to the row of people seated behind him, other victims of police misconduct, civil rights attorneys, community leaders, and even a few reformed former officers who'd chosen to support the cause. The Darius Project isn't just about legal aid, though we'll provide that. It's not just about advocacy, though we'll do that too. It's about standing together. It's about making sure that when someone faces abuse of power, they don't face it alone. News cameras flashed as Marcus outlined the Foundation's mission: legal support for victims, counseling for traumatized families, education programs for law enforcement, and a rapid response network to document and investigate incidents of abuse. "My son recorded what happened to me that day," Marcus continued, his voice softening. "Even though they broke his phone, even though he was terrified, he knew to bear witness. That's why we named this foundation after him, because sometimes the youngest among us show us the way forward." Darius sat straighter in his chair, chin lifted slightly. Tanya wiped a tear, squeezing his hand. After the formal announcement, as reporters gathered their equipment and the crowd began to disperse, a familiar rumble filled the air. Dozens of motorcycles appeared, led by a figure Marcus would recognize anywhere: Bones. The bikers parked in formation, creating a V-shape pointing toward the courthouse steps. Bones dismounted, carrying something wrapped in leather. The other riders formed a respectful circle as he approached Marcus. "Brother," Bones said, his voice gruff with emotion, "the National Council met last week. They wanted me to give you this." He unwrapped the package, revealing a new leather vest. Marcus ran his fingers over the familiar red and white colors of the Hells Angels patch. But below it, where his vice president rocker usually sat, was something new. A special patch reading "Honor Through Justice" in elegant script. "First one ever made," Bones explained. "They're creating a whole new position. You'll be our national advocate for police accountability. Your story, your foundation. It's changing things, brother. Not just for us, but for everyone who needs a voice." Marcus slipped on the vest, the leather still stiff and new. It felt right, like armor for the battles still to come. Tanya approached, straightening the collar with practiced hands, her eyes shining with pride. "Ready for a ride?" Bones asked, gesturing to where Marcus's Harley waited, freshly washed and gleaming in the afternoon sun. "The whole family?" Marcus looked at Tanya, who nodded. "Got my bike in the parking lot," she said. She'd started riding her own motorcycle recently, refusing to be just a passenger anymore. Darius grinned, already heading toward his mom's bike. He always rode with her, claiming she took corners more carefully than his dad. They mounted up, engines roaring to life in symphony. The same highway stretched before them, the one where their ordeal had begun months ago, but it felt different now. The sun painted everything in gold, and the wind carried the scent of late summer flowers. Bones led the procession, followed by Marcus, then Tanya with Darius. Behind them, 24 bikes formed an honor guard, their pipes thundering defiance and triumph. They passed the gas station where it had all started. The Confederate flag decal was gone now, replaced by a small sign that read, "All welcome here." Luis, the clerk who'd provided the security footage, waved from the doorway. Miles rolled beneath their wheels, the rhythm of the road washing away the last shadows of those dark days. Darius tapped his mom's shoulder, signaling her to pull up beside his father's bike. The boy's voice carried clear over the engine noise, full of the simple wisdom that children sometimes possess. "You showed them who you are, Dad." Marcus looked over at his son, seeing not just the boy who'd witnessed his father's arrest, but the young man who'd helped change the system. He saw Tanya too, strong and independent on her own bike, no longer just supporting from the sidelines, but riding her own path beside him. He smiled at the road ahead, the future unfolding like an endless ribbon of possibility. "No, son," he called back, his voice carrying on the wind. "We showed them who we are." They rode on, the sunset painting their shadows long across the asphalt. Not just a man and his family anymore, but symbols of something larger. Proof that justice, while not always swift, could still prevail. That standing together was stronger than standing alone. That even in the darkest moments, dignity and determination could light the way forward. Behind them, the bikes thundered on, a rolling testament to unity, to family, to the power of refusing to back down. The Darius Project was just beginning, but its message already echoed across the highways and byways of America. Justice shouldn't stand alone, and neither should its defenders.